Right, question number 14 is a diagram that you're given that's not to scale, so you can't measure anything, you can't measure any angles or side lengths or anything like that. This one's all about the sine and cosine rule, all right? So it's a pretty involved question. You've got 6 marks available. You're going to have to do a lot of work to get those 6 marks. The diagram shows triangle ABC with D on AC, which we can see, and E on AB, which we can also see. And D is a straight line, which we can also see. Everything that's written here is on the diagram. All right, it's worth a read, but make sure everything's there, nothing's missing. If it's missing, draw it on the diagram. Helps you. Calculate the length CD. So what we're interested in is working out what this distance here is. That's the ultimate goal. Now, to do that, we need to know things. We need to know the cosine rule, and we need to know the sine rule. So the cosine rule is the one that we're going to use the first, because if you notice, there's this big triangle and then there's a little triangle. Now the starting point for this question is noticing that the little triangle has all 3 sides. So we're going to use a version of the cosine rule to work out this angle, which will then help us work out this side length, this entire side length, using the sine rule, right? So you have to know stuff and know how these questions work. We're going to work out this whole side length here using this angle, and this side, right? And that's because that seems to be the only way we can actually get this question answered, right? It's the only bits of information that we've got. And then we take away the 28 from our final answer and leave us with what CD is, okay? So first of all, we're going to use the cosine rule. Have to know what that is. Cosine rule is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos of a. Okay, now that is the cosine rule, and you would use this if we had 2 sides and an included angle to find a side. Right, now we don't want to find a side because we've got all 3 sides, so we have to rearrange this, and we're going to use the cosine rule that says cos of a, and you could learn to rearrange it or you could just remember it. Cos a equals b squared plus c squared minus a squared over 2bc. That is the rule that we're going to use, and that's going to find us the angle that we want. Okay, so if we use that rule to start off with, I'm going to just sketch this triangle out and use A and D and E, okay, because those are the letters that we've been given in the question. We've got 28 meters, you've got 41 meters, just going to ignore the units, and 22 meters, right? Now the first step in using the sine or cosine rule is to label the sides like you do in trigonometry and Pythagoras. So E is going to, opposite E is little e, opposite A, big A is little a, and opposite big D is little d. There we go. And now you've got some values that you can attribute to letters. Now these don't match the letters in the cosine rule, so you can change the cosine rule to fit, right? Let's make D the B and the E the C. So my cosine rule that I'm going to use is cos of A, because I'm still finding out angle A, equals, I'm going to use D squared plus E squared minus A squared, right? Doesn't matter that they're different letters, they're just the letters we've been given in the question. And we're after this angle here, right? And that's good because that's labelled A, all right? So it's no problem, all right? We've got the A in the right place. And then we've got 2 multiplied by D multiplied by E. Now you substitute your numbers in and you're going to find what cos A equals. Don't want to know what cos A equals, we want to know what A equals. So again, you have to inverse this cos, which would become A equals cos to the minus 1. That's because you can't divide by cos, so you inverse the cos. And then you're going to type in, once you've got an answer and you substitute these numbers into this, your answer into here. So I'm going to find out what that is before anything. All right. Now, if I substitute these numbers in, I'm getting 41 squared plus 28 squared minus 22 squared. And all of that is over 2 multiplied by 41 multiplied by 28. Okay, so doing all that as a calculation, bring your calculator in and you find out what those things are. So 41 squared plus 28 squared minus 22 squared equals 1981. Write that down. Over, and then I've got 2 times 41 times 28. 2296. 2296. Now that, you work out what that is, okay, or your calculator works out what that is, and basically you can just type it in as a fraction to your scientific calculator here. That would be the easiest thing to do, all right? In fact, just type this in to the scientific calculator here, all right? It does all the work for you. You don't have to worry about working it out separately and then putting it into this bracket. Just type all that in, right? So that goes in there, and you work out what A equals, right? Now, A equals, I'm going to work it out on this dodgy calculator. If I clear everything, I've got 1981 divided by 2296. That equals 0.86 and lots of numbers. Now I need to multiply that by the cos to the minus 1, multiplied by second function cos to the minus 1. I get this long number, 30.36, etc. Right, now I'm going to see if I can pop that in the memory of this calculator. And that didn't store anything. Marvellous. Let me see. Okay, right, I'll try that again. So 1981 divided by, I hate this calculator, 1981 divided by 2296 equals, there we go, that's the number we had before, and then second function, so multiply that by second function cos to the minus 1. We've got this number. I'm just going to write down and round it off and then see if I can store it again in the memory. So 30.367. That'll do as a, and then we've got lots of other numbers after that. Let's see if it stores. So pop it in the memory. Hopefully, yes, we've got it in the memory. So we know that that angle, the angle that is here, is that 30.36, 0, 1, 1, etc. We've got some marks already for doing that, but we don't want that as our final answer. Right, that'll be a 3-mark question normally on its own. You want to work out what this distance here is, right? Now that would be it'd be useful to use draw yourself another diagram, okay? And this diagram is the big triangle this time, and we've got ABC, which is more conventional for the sine and cosine rules. So A and C and B. Now that one is 72, and that one we know is our answer. I'm just going to write answer from the previous part of the question, so 8.367. And we know that this length is 64. They're the only 4 bits of information that we've got. All right, we've got those 2 numbers, but they aren't anything. Then they were part of the first part of the question. We need to work out this distance, and that's point D there. All right, and we know that's 28. What we're going to work out is A to C. Right, so work out the length of A to C. Now A to C is going to be found by doing A to C equals, we're going to use the sine rule, and the sine rule is for when you're finding a side, you put the little letter on top. So the little letters, again, label the sides of the triangle. You've got A, you've got B, and you've got the little c. Now little c's got nothing to do with this, all right? There's no information on the side length or the angle for little c. We could work the angle out fairly simply because the angle's in a triangle out to 180. You don't need to for this question. So yeah, ignore little c and big C. Not interested in those. But the sine rule is A over sine of A equals B over sine of B, and equals C, or little c, over sine of C. Right, now we've just said we don't need C, so we can get rid of C. There's no information for that. You're only ever going to be using these two, a combination of 2 of these 3 things, right? And all we need to do now is substitute the numbers into this rule again, right? So this was knowledge, had to know this rule in order to be able to get the marks on this question. And little a is 64. Okay, sine a, so sine of, and we worked out sine a is going to be that number we've got stored in the memory. So I'm going to put 30 point and then 3 and then dot, dot, dot. Okay, and then that is equal to b, which is the thing we're trying to work out. See, we want to know what that whole length is. We've labelled it b, over sine of 72. So sine 72 is on the bottom of this fraction, and to get rid of a sine 72 being on the bottom of the fraction, you multiply by sine 72. You have to do that to both sides of the equation. That would leave b on its own. So little b is equal to sine of 72 multiplied by 64 over sine of our answer from the first part of the question, 30.3 dot dot dot, loads of other numbers. Okay, now you type all that into your calculator, right? And what you should get is your answer to the lengths of A to C. So we've labelled it B, I'm calling it A to C up here, right? Let's see if my calculator likes this. We're going to bring that in, clear the screen, and I'm going to type in sine. So I need to get back to the first function of 72. So I think I've got to put the numbers in first and then multiply that by sine. That equals that number. And then I'm going to multiply that by 64 divided by the answer that I previously had. So let's see if it brings up the memory. Multiplied by sine. Fingers crossed. No, hasn't done what I wanted it to do, because that doesn't make any sense. So let's try it again. 72 multiplied by sine. Multiply that by 64 divided by, I'm going to put in 30.367 sine equals, there we go, that's better. Don't know what happened the first time, so that makes more sense because this is a measurement. You see this is 64, this is 22, 28, 41. We reckon that A to C is 120.4 blah 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 blah, right? So 120, if the pen works again, right, 120.4 and some other numbers, 0, 1. Remember, I've rounded it now because the memory didn't work brilliantly. So that's the rough, I'll say rough, it's fairly accurate, measurement in meters. So A to C is 120.4 something meters. All you've got to do is take away that 28 and you've got your final answer. So A to C, 120.4, take away the 28 that we know A to D is, and that leaves us with D to C, or C to D. Okay, 92.4 meters. That's what I'm going to round it off to. Probably get away with doing it to just the nearest whole number because there's nothing to one decimal place within the question. So 92 meters would be absolutely fine, and you're going to get your 6 marks for that. Now it should be a bit easier for you because you've got a better calculator. I've had to use this rubbish one and figure out how it works for one of these tough questions. But that is your answer. There you go. Long video. Hope you enjoyed it.